Hi and welcome back to the course. In this video we're going to be linking our Jose user to Postgres. So what we're going to do is we are going to log in to our server, as we know, SSH space Jose at the server's IP address. And then we're going to put in the password, and now we're logged in. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to become the root user. And then we're going to become the Postgres user. So now we are the Postgres user, which has access to all things PostgreSQL related. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a PostgreSQL user. Now, the PostgreSQL user must have, for now, the same name as the Unix user we've created. So we're going to do create user Jose -capital P. Notice that Jose is the same name as the Unix user, but this Jose here is going to be a PostgreSQL user. So it's a user in the database, or rather in the server, that is going to have its own database, and so on. And it has to have the same name as the Unix user. -P allows us to set a password for this user. So we've created the user, and now we're going to put in a password twice, and now we've created the user. That's it created. Okay. So now what we can do as well is make sure that there is a database created for that user. So we do that with create_db, and then we give it the database name. Notice, remember, that a PostgreSQL server can have many databases. Right now it has one called Postgres, and now we're going to create another one called Jose. And that's it done. Now we're going to stop becoming the Postgres user and go back to being Jose, so we have to press exit, and that goes back to root, and then exit again, and that goes back to Jose. And now we can type psql, and that will connect to the Jose database. Remember, the user by default connects to the same database as the user's name. That's why we've created this database there. And there we are, and now we can press con_info, so you can see that I'm right. We are connected to the database Jose as the user Jose. Okay. And now we can press /q to leave the Postgres terminal. Okay. At any point, if you want to delete a database, you can do drop_db, and that will delete the database. But you must be the Postgres user to do that. Okay. Now, by default, well, as you can see, when we connected to PostgreSQL, we didn't have to put in a password. Because by default, PostgreSQL realizes that there is a user called Jose in the database, and that has access to the Jose database. So there's a Postgres user called Jose, and that has access to the Jose database. And because they are called the same as the Unix user, PostgreSQL just accepts that that is okay. This is not very safe. We've put in a password for a reason. We should be using that password. So let's make sure that PostgreSQL asks us for our password. What we're going to do is we're going to say sudo, and now the command that we're going to run is going to run as the root user. We're going to say vi/etc/9.5/main/pghba.conf. Okay, so that's sudo. We're going to run this command here as root vi/etc/9.5/main/pg_hba.conf. This is PostgreSQL's user login security configuration file. So we are now here, and we're going to scroll down to the bottom, and we're going to quickly explain what these things mean down here at the bottom. Okay. So we have 4 lines that are not comments. The first one, local all Postgres peer, and then local all peer, and finally we've got host all 107.0.0.1/32 MD5, host all ::1/128 MD5. Okay, so what the first one means is if we connect from within our server to any database as the Postgres user, so if we are logged in as the Postgres user, the peer means we will have access to everything without questions asked. Okay? So if we are the Postgres user, we can connect to any database without questions asked. The next one, if we are locally and we are any user asking for any database, we're going to have access. So essentially, this is very unsafe. No matter who we are, we will have access to everything just because the request is coming from the local machine. Now, this may be a bit confusing, but let me go on to the next one so you can understand the difference between these two. For this one, what this means is that when we are connecting from a different machine or through the internet, or well, rather through IP. So if somebody requests to join or connect to the database, and that request is coming from 127.0.0.1, no matter who they are and what database they're connecting to, we're going to use the MD5 method. MD5 is essentially asking for a password. Now, you know from the previous sections that 127.0.0.1 is the local host. So you may wonder, well, what's the difference between local and host with 127.0.0.1? Well, when we connect via IP, via a URL, in this case, it means that the request is coming from local, but it could be coming from a different server. Or another server could be doing the request. There's no rule for that in here, but it could happen. So the host just means that the request to log in is coming from the internet as opposed to from the server. So local means the request is coming through the server, and host means that the request is coming over the internet. In this case, the internet connection is also coming from the local server, but it could be coming from elsewhere if we set it to that. So what we're going to do to stop confusing you any longer, and this one down here is exactly the same, but instead of using IPv4, it's using IPv6. What we're going to do is, for local connections, we are going to make sure to ask for a password. So what we have to do is go over to this line here, and make sure to remove peer and change it to MD5. Okay, so we're going to press the I key to go into insert mode, and delete peer and change it to MD5. Then we're going to press escape, and then :WQ to write and quit, and that's that saved there. Okay. Now we've secured the PostgreSQL installation, and we have make sure that whenever we log in, we have to put in a password. This is very important because SQL Alchemy will not work unless we do this. And so while it's okay to use the peer type when we are using PostgreSQL directly, when we want to use it through SQL Alchemy, we must change it to MD5 or else SQL Alchemy will not like it. And the reason why it doesn't like it is because it's not secure. And so the fact that it forces you to do that increases security in your server. With that said, now that we've changed that to MD5, we are ready to continue and get the rest of the application deployed here. So without further ado, I'll see you in the next video.